Sonic the Hedgehog is quite the specimen within the gaming community. Every new release is like gambling. You hope that you get a good Sonic game, and then you get Sonic Forces, a fate worse than death. But despite his unsteady lineup of games, I'm very much a big fan of the blue guy. There are games that I enjoy, but there are also games that I find absolutely boring, or just not good at all. But as you can tell from the title of this video, I will not be looking at any of the official Sonic games. Instead, I will be looking at many of the unofficial Sonic games that are also out there. And this one in particular is called Sonic Robo Blast 2. This game is what happens when you grab any game from the classic Sonic trilogy and then you throw it into the third dimension. And much like any game in that trilogy, this game is pretty good. But why do I find the game good? How about we find out? For this review, I will be looking at the latest version of Sonic Robo Blast 2, which as of this recording is version 2.2.8. However, I will be looking at some of the older versions as well, just for some references that I have for specific points in this review that I want to mention. So with that cleared up and out of the way, let's take a look at the development history of Sonic Robo Blast 2, as I think it's very interesting. For those of you who are unfamiliar with this game and its history, you might be wondering why I'm looking at Sonic Robo Blast 2. Is there a Sonic Robo Blast 1? Yes, and it's fucking awful. Sonic Robo Blast was developed by one Johnny Wallbank, also known by his online pseudonym Sonicu. The only available version of SRB1 that you can find is in the official website for Sonic Robo Blast 2, srb2.org. The game itself was developed in February of 1998 using ClickTeam's Click and Play, which if that name rings a bell to you, then it's likely because ClickTeam also owned a game engine called Fusion, which is home of the well-known Sonic Worlds engine, that's actually a framework, that is used in a lot of 2D fan games, as well as games like Spark the Electric Jester and Freedom Planet. ClickTeam's Fusion was even used to create the Five Nights at Freddy's series, thus making Scott Cawthon canon in the Sonic Robo Blast universe. Anyway, Sonicu then met another developer known simply by the username SSN Tales, who has made Sonic Doom 2, a mod for Doom that changes everything but the gameplay to be Sonic themed. These two formed a team called Sonic Team Junior, and they would end up creating a successor to Sonic Robo Blast. The first version of Sonic Robo Blast 2 was developed using another program from ClickTeam called the Games Factory, though ST Junior would soon halt the game's development due to the limitations within the engine. Stealth, one of the many people responsible for Sonic Mania, had even offered to help the duo by creating an entirely new engine to be used not just by them, but himself as well. Unfortunately, progress on the engine halted when Stealth could no longer help them, and to my knowledge, I don't think the engine ever got completed, though I could be entirely wrong. From there, SSN Tales suggested that they should use the Doom Legacy engine to continue the development of SRB2, and thus the two began to work on versions of SRB2 that were more of a proof of concept than an actual demo of the game. The switch to the new engine meant that the game would shift into the third dimension as opposed to the 2D gameplay that was in the first ever versions of SRB2. Now, I could sit here and talk about the rest of the game's development, but that's why other videos exist that do the work for me. Which is why I recommend Mr. Mixtape's series of videos where he looks at and plays through the old versions of SRB2 and dives into detail about what the game could have been. Sonicu and SSN Tales have since left Sonic Team Junior to work on other projects, and Sonic Robo Blast 2 was left to a team of talented programmers, designers, musicians, artists, etc. Of course, the team is non-profit and the game itself is a hobby project, and because of that, updates and new major releases are few and far between. But enough about the development, what about the actual game? One of the things that makes SRB2 stand out from the rest of the fan games that are out there is its art style. The level environment is 3D, but the objects, the enemies, and even the character you're playing as is 2D. Now that may sound like it'd be hell to do any kind of platforming with that kind of art style, but in my experience I've never really had too many issues and I've been always able to land on platforms correctly. That being said, if you do prefer 3D models over sprites, the option to turn the sprites into 3D models is there as of version 2.2.7. Whereas before that version, you had to download the models from the game's forum page and then drop those models into the game folder. So if you have version 2.2.7 of the game or higher, then you should have the models already pre-installed, and all you have to do is enable them within the game's options. All you have to do is set your renderer to OpenGL, then go to the bottom of the options list, find OpenGL options, and then the option to turn on the models is there. Back to the art style though. Sonic Robo Blast 2, much like the classic games that I was inspired by, has areas that range from bright and vibrant to gloomy and dark. And just like the classics, it also has a story that's pretty shallow and straight to the point. In Sonic Robo Blast 1, Eggman creates a machine called the Ring Satellite that pretty much collects all the rings from the world and uses those rings to power his robotic empire or something, I don't know. Sonic Robo Blast 2 follows up from that plot with a new plot device called the Black Rock. Very original. Once every 50 years, the Black Rock passes Earth, and from it, an army of aliens rains down and... Wait, this is the plot to Shadow the Hedgehog. Here's the real plot. Once every 5 years, the Black Rock orbits Mobius, and then disappears after a while. Dr. Eggman decides to use it to power his new base of operation, the Egg Rock? Originality be damned. We cut to Sonic just vibing when all of a sudden Eggman appears out of nowhere and starts charging a laser aiming at Green Flower Mountain. Sonic rushes over to stop him but was too late and the mountain turned into a sculpture of Eggman. Firstly, in the earlier versions of the story pre 2.2, Eggman fired a laser at a fucking city and not only destroyed the city but also killed tons of civilians. Holy shit! And secondly, for the fastest thing alive, Sonic didn't make it on time to stop Eggman. Maybe Sonic's aware of his own powers and knows that if he were to go at his maximum speed, he could very well cause more damage to the environment than necessary, and he could very well put himself in danger, for if he trips ever so slightly, the sudden change of speed from colliding with the wall, or the friction from rubbing against the ground could be the death of him. Is Sonic the Hedgehog's real enemy not Eggman, but rather his own speed? Maybe, I'm not sure. So yeah, Sonic fails to stop Eggman's laser. Eggman sends out a few of his robots to fight him and his friends. Oh yeah, by the way, his friends are also here. The crew destroys the robots effortlessly. Tails hacks into one of them to figure out what Eggman's up to, and bam, title screen. Yeah, this plot definitely feels like something you'd see in an official classic Sonic game. The plot is serviceable, nothing spectacular, but nothing too bad either. I wouldn't want it to be changed too much because quite frankly I don't care for it and I think it's fine. So let's go over the gameplay. Oh boy, the gameplay. The most important part of any game, especially a platformer. As mentioned, SRB2 is built off of a heavily modified version of the Doom Legacy engine. Is it the ideal engine to use for Sonic games? I don't think so, but with what the devs were given here, they did a pretty good job. This game can be played with either a keyboard and mouse combo or a controller. I've tried both, and with the right settings, both control schemes are excellent. When you first boot up the game, it'll ask you to play a tutorial level, a feature that wasn't present in versions 2.1 or older. This is where the game also lets you choose one of 3 playstyles in quotes, another feature that's been new to 2.2. These playstyles essentially set up the camera controls in a way that are tailored to the control scheme you chose how to play the game. Using a controller grants you full 360-degree movement, and the control layout for it is actually kinda clever. Instead of the face buttons being used to control the character, you actually use the shoulder buttons. The right one to jump and the left one to spin dash or roll. However, I do not recommend using a controller for multiplayer, as multiplayer has a few game modes that require more buttons than the standard controller has. That's where the keyboard and mouse combo comes in. The KM combo is ideal if you're playing lots of multiplayer, which doesn't benefit me a lot because I have not touched SRB2's multiplayer for this review because I have no one to play with but myself. How you control the character is pretty simple. WASD to move, left shift to spin dash or roll, and space is to jump. So you might be asking, what's the mouse used for then? Well, you see, the KM combo trades full 360-degree movement for more precise camera control using the mouse. And speaking of camera control, you can also go into first person view and play the game that way if you're one of those people. Now, which playstyle should you choose? The game has some pretty good descriptions of each playstyle and what control scheme is ideal for it, but I'll also explain them here real quick. Simple is ideal for controllers as it makes it so that anywhere you move, the camera rotates in the direction that you're moving, though you can still move the camera by yourself using the right analog stick. Trust me, this controls better than it may sound. Standard is ideal for keyboard and mouse. You can move the character anywhere you want, but the character acts where the camera is facing. You want to charge a spin dash? The character will automatically snap facing forward where the camera is facing, and will take off in that direction when you release the button. There's also strafe, which was the default and only playstyle up to version 2.1, where the character will only move where the camera is pointing at, and will only strafe left and right and go backwards, hence the name. Sounds confusing? No worries, feel free to play around with these playstyles to see which one you like the most, and the game even lets you change them at any time you want. That was already quite a lot that I've explained, and we haven't even gone over the playable characters. SRB2 has 6 playable characters, with only 3 of them being available from the start. Let's go over all of them. Sonic is the fastest character of them all, and utilizes an air dash named after its onomatopoeia, the speed Thok. One thing to keep in mind is that this is an air dash and not a homing attack. Sonic is considered the hardest to control in the game, but once you get used to him, he's pretty damn good. Tails and Knuckles control exactly how you'd expect them to. Tails can fly, drop down faster during flight by holding down the spin dash button, and is generally a pretty beginner-friendly character, whereas Knuckles can glide, climb walls, go through his own specific paths in levels, and has the lowest jump out of every character. The other 3 characters are unlockable: Amy Rose, Metal Sonic, and Fang the Sniper. Fang is one of the 2 characters that cannot spin dash, and instead, for his neutral special, he wields a gun. He auto-aims at the nearest enemy or item box, making the gun a nifty tool to use, especially in bosses where he oftentimes just snaps them in half. He can also bounce on his tail, allowing him to gain momentum and also destroy enemies if he bounces on top of them. And also, for some reason, when he bounces on his tail, Fang is just invincible to spikes and lava as well. What's up with that? Metal Sonic is Sonic, except he can hover instead of Thok, and if he maintains full speed for long enough, he enters boost mode, which you may remember from Sonic Advance 2, that allows him to destroy enemies and even destroy spikes. But like in Advance 2, boost mode does not make you completely invincible, so be careful. Amy is the other character that lacks a spin dash and instead uses her trusty hammer to destroy enemies, bounce off of springs higher, and destroy spikes. She can do a spin attack in the air as well, and speaking of air, she also has the highest jump out of the entire cast. Overall, the controls are pretty good. However, I feel like that there are a couple of things that could be fixed up just a tiny bit. Firstly, Sonic. New players will probably choose Sonic as their first character, which makes sense, the game is called Sonic Robo Blast 2 after all. But for newcomers, he's probably not the best choice. The latter half of the zones contains some sections that require you to do some precise platforming, and unless you've chosen Sonic and Tails and use Tails to fly over the platforms no problem, you might find Sonic a tad too slippery to comfortably jump across the platforms. Though this is a problem I feel only happens on the first few playthroughs. Obviously, the more time you spend playing the game, the more you get used to the controls. I've also heard people don't like the speed Thok. While it's true that the Thok isn't really useful in the slower sections of the levels, I've never found too much of an issue with it myself. The one thing that people need to look out for is that when they use the Thok against enemies, more specifically the ones that don't die in one hit and bosses, they have to look out for the dreaded third law of motion, aka badnik bouncing. Never use the Thok in bosses where the arena is surrounded by either thorns or straight up death. Just forget that move ever existed in Sonic's repertoire. Another thing that could just be a nitpick is how speed and acceleration is handled. It isn't the worst thing in the world, far from it, but when characters go down slopes, they don't accelerate like you'd expect them to. The characters only accelerate to ridiculous speeds when they're rolling down a hill, whereas just running down the hill will not wield the same result. And I theorize that it may be like that because the maximum speed might be capped, just like in Sonic 1 and 2. If that's the case, then maybe the devs can remove it from the next major update, But if they decide to keep it, or if that's just simply not the case, then that's fine. I'm not gonna lose sleep over it. Moving on, this game follows the classic tradition of a 2D Sonic game, but in 3D. There are rings to collect, enemies to destroy, Chaos Emeralds to obtain, and bosses to beat. This game also introduces a healthy variety of shields you can obtain. There are a total of 10 different shields that you can find in the game, and half of them are in the bonus zones. The bonus half consists of the elemental shields as well as the normal shield, and the fire flower from Super Mario. Nintendo's not gonna like that one. The other half are all original shields and are the ones that you will come across in a normal playthrough. The attraction shield is a lightning shield but without the double jump, and instead lets you do a homing attack, and it also attracts rings if it wasn't obvious already. The elemental shield is what happens when you combine a flame shield and a bubble shield, not just in looks but in properties as well. You can stomp to create a ring of fire around you that damages enemies, and every time you roll, you leave a trail of fire. The whirlwind shield is a basic shield that lets you double jump, but when you do, you uncurl from a ball, leaving you susceptible to getting hit by an enemy. The force shield is a pretty interesting one. It protects you from 2 hits instead of 1, and its ability is to kill any momentum you carry mid-jump, so this shield may be useful for platforming. And last but not least, the Armageddon shield. Not only does this shield have a badass name, but it's also a screen nuke that kills any enemy on screen and can be activated either manually or by getting hit by an enemy. These shields, I believe, are absolutely brilliant and some of the most well-made things about the game. The monitors that contain them, as well as your typical invincibility and speed shoes, can come in a gold flavor that allows for infinite use of these items in said monitors. You only really find these monitors in areas that require the item inside for level progression, but thankfully other pathways exist, so you don't have to take that route specifically to finish the level. And speaking of levels, what about them? If you're only going to play through the main campaign, you'll only go through 8 zones: Green Flower, Techno Hill, Deep Sea, Castle Eggman, Arid Canyon, Red Volcano, Egg Rock, and Black Core. But if you want some extra content, then look no further than the extra stages: Frozen Hillside, Pipe Towers, which contains the fire flower that was mentioned earlier, Forest Fortress, Techno Legacy, Haunted Heights, Aerial Garden, and Azure Temple. These are all the levels that you can play through, including the special stages and their bonus content, which I'll talk about in a bit. The main lineup of levels is great. Besides Green Flower being this game's version of Green Hill, most of the level themes here are very unique and unlike anything you'd see in the official Sonic games. However, prepare to spend a lot, and I mean a lot, of time in these levels if you're of the explorative type. Overall, the zone layout is great, levels are fun to blast through, the playable characters have all unique abilities, and the controls, while a little funky at first, are pretty solid once you get a good grasp of them. But let's say hypothetically you want to channel your inner completionist and get everything in this game. Let's talk about those Chaos Emeralds. Like in the classics, collecting the emeralds not only nets you the good ending to the main game, but it also grants Sonic, Metal Sonic, and ever since a recent update Knuckles, their own super forms. You get the Chaos Emeralds by looking for the emerald tokens hidden throughout the levels. Once you've collected one of the many tokens that you can find within a single act, it's all just a matter of going to the end and then entering the special stage. What makes these special stages pretty unique is that they are designed and play like a Knights game. Collect a specific amount of blue spheres, take them to the capsule holding the emerald, and then take the emerald back to the start. There are also a number of power-ups to collect, ranging from a time extender to a more powerful paraloop to help collect a lot more spheres and rings. The first 3 special stages are easy. You'll most likely get the emerald first try with little to no problems. The later 4, however, get a little bit difficult with stage hazards making an appearance, and just like in Knights, if you get hit by them, you lose 5 seconds of your time. That doesn't sound too bad until you start getting wombo comboed by some of the hazards in the last couple of stages. One thing to look out for when playing the special stages is that the jump button is the drill dash, allowing you to go fast, and pressing the roll button slows you down to a crawl, and these moves will be extremely useful in some of the later special stages, so keep that in mind. So, is that all we have for completion? No, of course not. Why would you assume that it ends right there? You ever just look at all the locked levels in the level select and went, how the fuck do I unlock these? That's where these come in. These are called emblems, and emblems aren't the worst things in the world, I think. There's a grand total of 200 of these motherfuckers, and obtaining them comes in different ways. You can either find them hidden in stages, hidden in special stages, some require you to collect a specific amount of rings or points, while others require finishing a level under a specific time limit. 100% completion of SRB2 is what truly separates the boys from the men. You will be sniffing these things out like dogs on airports sniffing out drugs and other illegal substances. Collecting them all requires mastery of the game and exploring every square inch of the levels. At certain thresholds, you'll also unlock either a bonus stage or something to help you find even more emblems, and collecting them all gives you the ability of straight up playing God in the form of Pandora's Box, a cheat menu that lets you fuck around with gravity, destroy every enemy in the stage, enable super forms for every character including those that don't have one, and more. I wish I had footage of me playing around with this thing, but unfortunately I don't, and that's because I have not 100% completed the game. Getting 200 emblems not only requires that I explore every regular and special stage, but in the case with the latter, you also need to get A ranks to unlock 4 more nice stages to play through, which is not happening for me because I'm what we in the gaming industry describe as not good at them. So yeah, if you're up for the challenge, I'd say go for them. If not, then that's fine. You wanna know what else is fine though? The goddamn soundtrack. I've already spent an ungodly amount of time on gameplay alone, so I'll make this part as brief as possible. Check out the soundtrack, it's filled with absolute bangers. You got your happy vibes with Green Flowers music, your 80s sounding techno with Egg Rock, Arid Canyon's Wild West sound, and the energetic as hell super theme that doesn't loop after 8 seconds. My favorite track is Azure Temple, as the track brilliantly captures the atmosphere of the level, and the instrumentation is incredible. Seriously, this track is absolutely beautiful and definitely deserves a listen, alongside the rest of the soundtrack of course. If you want to find a download or a SoundCloud link for it, then the links are available on the game's official website. In conclusion, Sonic Robo Blast 2 is, in my opinion, a perfect example of how a 3D classic Sonic game should be made. If Sonic Team were to make a classic Sonic game in 3D, then they should take some notes from this game. While there are a couple of quirks that you may have to adapt to when jumping into it, there should be little to no problems afterwards once you get used to them. I wasn't the biggest fan of this game originally simply because Sonic was way too slippery for me, but that was a long time ago, and since then I've actually become somewhat competent at video games. So when I decided to give this game another shot early 2020, I actually found myself enjoying it a lot more than I initially had a few years ago. And hey, if you actually have given this game a try and it wasn't your thing, then that's absolutely fine. Not all games are gonna appeal to everyone, and I believe that everyone, not just the Sonic community, can benefit from respecting each other's opinions, even if you don't agree with them. From the presentation to the gameplay, this game ticks all the boxes for what I believe is an amazing experience that can be enjoyed by anyone that dedicates the time to learn the gameplay mechanics. This game also nails the classic difficulty curve just right, so I feel like it won't be too infuriating to newcomers. If you feel like you've done everything in the game and are still looking to get more out of it, there's a pretty active modding community offering you loads of different mods to choose from that range from simple tweaks to character mods to full-blown level packs with their own unique adventure to tackle. Hell, people have even made a whole new game out of modding, with one notable example being Sonic Robo Blast 2 Kart, which if there's enough demand for it in the comments below, I might actually take a look at it and share my opinion of it with you all as well. Sonic Robo Blast 2 has improved a lot ever since the first game back in 1998, and it's all thanks to a dedicated team that is passionate about their project. It's also thanks to them that SRB2 remains as one of the best Sonic fan games out there, and whatever major update the devs release will undoubtedly be a great one. This video was sponsored by the voices inside my head. Thank you so much for watching this video. It took a hot minute, as the kids say, to finish this video. It's been in the works for too long, but now it's done. I can now go and work on other videos as well. If you enjoyed this video, obviously drop a like. It shows that you enjoyed this type of style for videos, and I should continue doing more. Comment down below if there's anything I should change about it, or like if you have any criticisms. that you want to throw my way, or like compliments. I'll accept both. Share this video around if you enjoyed it that much, where you want to show it to your friends or whatever, or like anyone. If you want to see more videos like this, obviously the subscribe button is right there. And yeah, I don't really have anything else to say more, so thanks again for watching, and as always, please shut up.